Have you ever stopped to consider what you truly believe? Not just the facts you accept, but the deep-seated narratives you hold about yourself, about others, about the very nature of reality, and how much of that belief system is built on solid ground, and how much is constructed from convenient fictions, comforting assumptions, or simply the path of least resistance. Think about the moments when your most cherished beliefs have been challenged, perhaps by a piece of information that contradicted your worldview, a personal failure that shattered your self-image, or a difficult conversation that exposed uncomfortable truths about a relationship. What was your immediate reaction? Was it curiosity, a willingness to examine the challenge, or was it a visceral recoil, a defensive posture, a desperate clinging to the familiar framework, even if you suspected it was flawed? Now, consider this. What if I told you that the very act of confronting reality, of seeking truth, is not a neutral or even inherently positive endeavor, but is instead profoundly difficult, often painful, and something we are biologically and psychologically wired to avoid? What if the path of least resistance is not just easier, but actively pulls us away from an accurate understanding of the world and ourselves? This isn't a comfortable idea. It disrupts our assumptions about human nature, about progress, about the very foundations of knowledge and self-awareness. It suggests that the comfort we crave is often the enemy of the clarity we need. This isn't merely an abstract philosophical puzzle. It is an urgent, unflinching examination of the human condition in an age saturated with information, yet starved of genuine understanding. It is a call to radical honesty, not just with others, but with the most challenging subject of all, yourself. Prepare for a journey that will question everything you thought you knew about truth, comfort, and the hidden costs of self-deception. This exploration demands courage, a willingness to sit with discomfort, and an openness to the possibility that the most valuable insights lie precisely where you least want to look. At the heart of this difficult truth lies a concept explored by profound thinkers throughout history, perhaps most incisively by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He grappled with the human condition, questioning our values, our morality, and our relationship with truth itself. Nietzsche, in his characteristic challenging style, suggested that truth might not be a gentle, welcoming presence, easily grasped and universally desired. Instead, he provocatively hinted that truth might be something elusive, perhaps even something we actively flee from. He explored the idea that our will to truth is not a simple, pure drive towards objective reality, but is intertwined with deeper psychological needs, fears, and the will to power, the drive to shape reality to our own ends. The core concept here, synthesized from this line of inquiry, is the profound inherent difficulty of confronting reality and truth, contrasted sharply with the deceptive ease and immense long-term cost of clinging to comforting illusions or convenient narratives. It posits that our natural inclination is not necessarily towards unvarnished reality, but towards whatever narrative serves our immediate psychological or social needs, even if it is fundamentally untrue. Why is this concept more critical now than perhaps ever before? Look around you. We live in an age of unprecedented information flow, yet also an age of unprecedented fragmentation and polarization. Social media platforms are designed to curate our experiences, feeding us content that confirms our existing biases and keeps us engaged within echo chambers. Algorithms prioritize engagement over accuracy, often amplifying sensationalism, misinformation, and narratives that trigger strong emotional responses. We are constantly bombarded with carefully constructed realities, from filtered selfies to meticulously crafted online personas, from partisan news bubbles to marketing campaigns that sell not just products, but aspirational, often unattainable lifestyles. The sheer volume and speed of information make it exhausting to discern fact from fiction, genuine connection from curated performance. This environment doesn't merely make truth-seeking difficult, it actively incentivizes and rewards the creation and consumption of convenient, self-affirming illusions. The digital landscape is a fertile ground for the avoidance of difficult realities, offering endless avenues for distraction, validation from like-minded strangers, and the construction of identity based on shared fantasies rather than grounded self-awareness.
This concept goes far beyond simply lying to others. It delves into the subtle, pervasive ways we lie to ourselves. It's not just about denying obvious facts. It's about the narratives we construct to explain our failures, the justifications we create for our harmful habits, the selective blindness we apply to the flaws in those we admire, and the convenient amnesia we employ regarding our own past mistakes. It's about the stories we tell ourselves about why we aren't pursuing our dreams. I don't have time, it's too late, I'm not good enough, when the deeper truth might be fear of failure or lack of discipline. It's about believing a relationship is healthy because the alternative, admitting it's toxic and leaving, is too terrifying to contemplate. It's about clinging to a political ideology not because you've rigorously examined its tenets, but because it provides a sense of belonging and moral superiority. The difficulty lies in the fact that these illusions often serve a purpose. They protect our fragile egos, maintain social harmony, at least superficially, and shield us from the pain of acknowledging harsh realities about ourselves or the world. They are not merely errors in judgment. They are active constructions, often built layer by layer over years, becoming so integrated into our identity that questioning them feels like questioning our very existence. The hidden truth is that these illusions are not static. They require constant energy to maintain, energy that could be used for growth, connection, or genuine understanding. Consider reality and truth not as a well-lit, easily navigable highway, but as a vast, untamed wilderness. This wilderness is sprawling, unpredictable, filled with rugged terrain, hidden pitfalls, and breathtaking, terrifying vistas. It demands courage, resilience, and a willingness to get lost, to stumble, to face harsh elements. It requires constant vigilance, the ability to read subtle signs, and the humility to admit you don't know what's around the next bend. Navigating this wilderness means accepting that there are no paved paths, no streetlights, no guarantees of safety or comfort. You might encounter dangerous creatures, uncomfortable facts, navigate treacherous ravines, complex problems, and face sudden storms, crises that shatter your assumptions. Yet this wilderness is also the source of genuine discovery, breathtaking beauty, and the raw, unvarnished truth of the landscape. It is where true self-reliance is forged, where your limits are tested and expanded, and where you gain an authentic understanding of the world, not as you wish it were, but as it is. Now contrast this with a meticulously manicured garden. This garden is beautiful, orderly, predictable, and safe. The paths are clearly marked, the plants are neatly trimmed, and everything is designed for ease and aesthetic pleasure. You know exactly what you will see and experience. There are no surprises, no dangers, no need for difficult navigation. You can stroll through it effortlessly, admiring the cultivated beauty. However, this garden is entirely artificial. The soil is imported, the plants are selected for conformity, and anything that doesn't fit the design is ruthlessly removed. It is a controlled environment, a curated experience. While it offers comfort and a sense of control, it lacks the raw vitality, the unpredictable depth, and the genuine challenge of the wilderness. It is a beautiful illusion, a comfortable cage. The core concept is that we are constantly faced with a choice: to venture into the challenging, unpredictable wilderness of reality, or to retreat into the safety and predictability of the manicured garden of illusion. The garden feels safer, looks more appealing from a distance, and requires far less effort, but it limits our growth, distorts our perspective, and ultimately leaves us unprepared for the inevitable moments when the walls of the garden crumble and the wilderness intrudes. The wilderness, though difficult and often painful to navigate, is the only place where genuine strength, authentic understanding, and true freedom can be found. The effort required to maintain the garden is the energy spent avoiding truth. The effort required to navigate the wilderness is the energy spent growing stronger and wiser.
So, what are the psychological mechanisms driving this retreat from reality, this preference for the manicured garden? One powerful force is cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort experienced by a person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or participates in an action that goes against one of their beliefs. When confronted with information that clashes with our existing worldview or self-image, our minds instinctively seek to reduce this dissonance. The easiest way is often not to change our beliefs or behaviors, which is hard, but to reject the new information, rationalize our existing position, or seek out information that confirms what we already think. Confirmation bias. This creates a powerful feedback loop, reinforcing our illusions and making it harder to break free. Add to this motivated reasoning, where our emotional needs and desires unconsciously influence how we evaluate evidence, we are more likely to accept information that supports our preferred outcome or identity, and scrutinize more heavily or outright reject information that threatens it. Fear also plays a crucial role. Fear of being wrong, fear of the unknown, fear of losing status or belonging, fear of the implications of reality for our future. These mechanisms work together to build robust psychological defenses, making the garden of illusion feel not just comfortable, but necessary for survival. Consider Sarah. Sarah is in her late 30s, working in a job she finds soul-crushingly boring and unfulfilling. She dreams of starting her own small business, something creative and connected to her passion for art. For years, she's told herself it's not the right time. She needs more savings, the market isn't good, she lacks the necessary skills. These are all plausible reasons, but the deeper truth, the one she avoids confronting, is her profound fear of failure. She tells herself stories about how stable her current job is, how lucky she is to have it, focusing on the minor conveniences while ignoring the growing emptiness inside. She scrolls through social media, comparing herself to others who seem effortlessly successful, reinforcing her belief that she's not capable. When a friend suggests she take a small online business course, she finds reasons to put it off, citing busyness or lack of funds, even though she spends money on things that bring her fleeting comfort. Sarah, are you trapped in a similar cycle, telling yourself plausible stories to avoid the terrifying possibility of pursuing what you truly desire and risking failure? The consequence for Sarah is a life lived in a gilded cage. Years turn into a decade, then two. The dream fades from a vibrant possibility to a wistful regret. Her creativity atrophies. The comfort of her stable job becomes a source of resentment. She may start to feel bitter towards others who take risks, or become increasingly critical and cynical. The energy she expends maintaining the illusion that it's just not the right time or I'm not ready is immense, leaving her exhausted and devoid of genuine joy. The cost isn't just the unpursued dream, it's the erosion of her spirit, the quiet despair of a life lived far below its potential, all because the fear of confronting her own limitations and the possibility of failure felt more overwhelming than the slow, steady death of her aspirations. Then there's Mark. Mark prides himself on being a rational, objective thinker. He's deeply invested in a particular political ideology and spends hours consuming content that validates his views. He sees himself as a champion of truth against widespread deception. However, his commitment to this ideology is so strong that he automatically dismisses any information, no matter how well sourced, that contradicts his beliefs. He labels opposing viewpoints as fake news or the product of malicious intent without engaging with the substance. He surrounds himself with people who share his views, creating an echo chamber where his perspectives are constantly reinforced. When confronted with factual data that challenges a core tenet of his political stance, he becomes defensive, attacks the source, or finds convoluted ways to reinterpret the data to fit his existing framework. His identity is deeply intertwined with being right about his political positions. Mark, do you find yourself instinctively rejecting information that challenges your deeply held beliefs,
perhaps about politics, or even about yourself or others.
The consequence for Mark is intellectual stagnation and increasing isolation. While he believes he is seeking truth, he is in fact building an impenetrable fortress of confirmation bias. He loses the ability to engage in nuanced discussion, seeing everything through the narrow lens of his ideology. His relationships with friends and family who hold different views become strained, often devolving into arguments or mutual avoidance. He becomes increasingly rigid and dogmatic, unable to adapt his thinking in the face of new evidence. He misses opportunities for genuine learning and growth because he is unwilling to admit the possibility that he might be wrong, even partially. The cost is not just a distorted understanding of the world, it's the loss of intellectual flexibility, the inability to connect with others across ideological divides, and the corrosive effect of certainty without humility. Finally, consider Elena. Elena is in a long-term relationship that is emotionally draining and lacks genuine intimacy. Her partner is often critical and emotionally unavailable. Elena feels lonely and unappreciated, but the thought of leaving is terrifying. She tells herself that things aren't that bad, that all relationships have their ups and downs, that she's lucky to have someone. She focuses on the few positive moments, magnifying their importance while minimizing the consistent pattern of neglect and criticism. She avoids talking about her true feelings with her partner, fearing conflict or worse, confirmation that the relationship is truly broken. She avoids confiding in friends, putting on a brave face and presenting an image of a happy couple, maintaining the illusion for herself and others. Elena, are you clinging to a situation, a relationship, or even a self-image because the thought of confronting the difficult reality feels too overwhelming? The consequence for Elena is the slow erosion of her self-worth and emotional well-being. By refusing to confront the reality of her relationship, she remains trapped in a cycle of pain and disappointment. Her self-esteem suffers as she internalizes her partner's criticism and her own feelings of inadequacy. She misses opportunities to find a truly fulfilling connection. The energy she spends maintaining the illusion of a functional relationship is immense, leading to exhaustion, anxiety, and potentially physical health issues. The cost is not just the missed opportunity for a healthier relationship, it's the damage to her psychological health, the loss of years spent in emotional stagnation, and the profound loneliness that comes from living a lie, even to herself. The common thread through Sarah, Mark, and Elena's stories is the immense, often hidden cost of avoiding reality. It is paid not in dollars, but in lost potential, emotional suffering, stunted growth, damaged relationships, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. The comfort of the illusion is temporary, a psychological anesthetic that numbs the pain in the short term, but allows the underlying wound to fester and grow. The cost is the slow forfeiture of a life lived authentically, replaced by a carefully constructed performance designed to protect us from truths we deem too difficult to bear. This is the silent epidemic of our age, lives diminished by the refusal to confront what is real. So, if confronting reality is so difficult and the lure of illusions so strong, what is the path forward? It is not a path of ease, nor is it a destination where all truths are finally revealed in a blinding flash of clarity. Rather, it is a path of cultivation, cultivating the capacity to tolerate discomfort, to question our own certainties, and to approach reality with courage and humility. True freedom in this context is not the absence of problems or difficult truths, but the internal strength and flexibility to face them without collapsing into denial or despair. It is the liberation that comes from no longer being held captive by the need to maintain comforting fictions. It is the strength found in standing on the solid ground of what is, rather than the shifting sands of what we wish were true. This path is demanding, requiring consistent effort and a willingness to experience pain, but it leads to a profound sense of integrity and resilience that no illusion can ever provide. The first practical principle on this path is radical honesty, particularly with yourself. This goes beyond simply not lying.
It means actively seeking out the uncomfortable truth about your own motivations, your own flaws, your own contributions to your problems. When something goes wrong, your first instinct might be to blame external factors or others. Radical honesty means pausing and asking, what role did I play? What was my mistake? What was my responsibility?
What? Commit to identifying and articulating the uncomfortable truths about yourself and your situation, especially those you instinctively want to avoid. Why? Our capacity for self-deception is vast. We are masters of rationalization and blame. Radical honesty dismantles these defenses, forcing us to see ourselves clearly, which is the necessary first step for genuine change and growth. It builds self-trust and resilience. How? Start small. After a minor setback or conflict, instead of immediately justifying yourself, spend 5 minutes writing down every way you contributed to the problem, no matter how small or uncomfortable it feels. Practice articulating your true feelings and needs in low-stakes situations. Get feedback from trusted individuals and listen without interrupting or defending. Ask yourself, what is the most uncomfortable truth about this situation or my role in it? Challenges? The primary challenge is ego defense. Your mind will resist, offering justifications, minimizing your role, or trying to shift blame. You will feel shame, guilt, or inadequacy. It requires a conscious, persistent effort to override these ingrained patterns. The second principle is embracing discomfort as a signal. If the path to truth is uncomfortable, then discomfort itself can be a compass, pointing you towards the very areas you need to explore. That knot in your stomach when you consider a certain topic, the urge to change the subject when a difficult issue arises, the irritation you feel towards someone who challenges your views, these are not just negative feelings to be avoided. They are signals that you are approaching the boundary of a comforting illusion or a difficult truth. What? Consciously lean into feelings of discomfort, resistance, or irritation when they arise in response to information, ideas, or self-reflection that challenge your current perspective or comfort zone. Why? Discomfort is often the psychological friction generated by encountering something that doesn't fit neatly into your existing mental framework or threatens your sense of safety or identity. Avoiding discomfort keeps you trapped within your current limitations. Embracing it allows you to push past those boundaries and expand your understanding. How? When you feel that jolt of discomfort or resistance, instead of turning away, pause. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is it about this idea or situation that is triggering this reaction? Explore the feeling with curiosity, not judgment. If a book, conversation, or piece of information makes you feel uncomfortable, commit to spending a little more time with it, trying to understand why it elicits that response, rather than dismissing it outright. Challenges? Our natural inclination is towards comfort. Leaning into discomfort feels counterintuitive and can be emotionally taxing. It requires overriding deep-seated avoidance patterns. There's also the risk of mistaking genuine harm for mere discomfort. This principle applies to challenging ideas and self-reflection, not situations that are truly unsafe. The third principle is cultivating intellectual humility. This is the recognition that your understanding is always incomplete. Your perspectives are shaped by your unique experiences and biases, and that you are capable of being wrong. It is the antidote to the certainty that fuels dogma and prevents learning. Intellectual humility doesn't mean lacking conviction. It means holding your convictions lightly enough to update them in the face of new evidence or perspectives. What? Adopt a stance of curiosity and openness, recognizing the limits of your own knowledge and the possibility that your most cherished beliefs may be flawed or incomplete. Why? Certainty closes the door to learning. When you believe you already possess the truth, you stop looking for it. Intellectual humility keeps you receptive to new information, allows you to learn from others, especially those you disagree with, and makes you more adaptable in a complex, changing world. It fosters genuine connection by reducing the need to be right all the time. How? Actively seek out diverse perspectives, especially from people who hold different views than you.
When engaging in discussions, practice active listening with the goal of understanding the other person's reasoning rather than just waiting for your turn to respond. Get comfortable saying, "I don't know," or "I could be wrong." Regularly question the sources of your information and consider alternative explanations. Reflect on times you've changed your mind and the process involved.
Challenges. This principle directly challenges our ego's need to be right and knowledgeable. It can feel vulnerable to admit ignorance or potential error. Socially, certainty is often rewarded, while humility can be perceived as weakness. It requires consciously resisting the urge to appear expert and instead prioritizing genuine understanding. These principles are not easy fixes. They are practices, disciplines that require ongoing effort. The pain you feel when practicing them, the sting of self-recognition, the discomfort of uncertainty, the friction of challenging deeply held beliefs, is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is a signal that you are breaking free from the comfortable confines of illusion, that you are venturing into the wilderness of reality. This pain is the necessary friction of growth, the sound of your psychological defenses being dismantled, the feeling of muscle stretching in ways they haven't before. Embrace it. It means you are alive, you are learning, and you are becoming stronger. We stand at a crossroads, bombarded by curated realities in the siren song of comfortable lies. The path of least resistance leads deeper into the garden of illusion, offering temporary solace at the cost of genuine connection, growth, and self-awareness. The alternative is the challenging ascent into the wilderness of reality, a path fraught with difficulty and discomfort, yet one that promises authentic strength, profound understanding, and the true freedom that comes from seeing clearly. The choice is not about finding some ultimate objective truth handed down from on high. It is about cultivating the courage and capacity to face whatever reality presents, both within yourself and in the world around you, without flinching, without resorting to comforting fictions. It is about choosing the difficult, rewarding work of building a life on the bedrock of what is real, rather than the shifting sands of what you wish were true. What discomfort are you currently avoiding? What difficult truth about yourself or your situation are you refusing to confront? To explore more of this work here, subscribe to the channel. The quest continues.